stand here very good job. Managing change would be a good lesson.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do the one thing Toastmasters tells all speakers not to do. It's the number one rule you don't do today, and that is apologize in advance for something at the beginning of your talk.
Don't do that.
Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. But I've been having the sinus infection all week, and so if I had been singing today, it would have been bass, but there weren't any bass parts. So, Mark, thank you for giving me a break. And I had to say what voice I've got left for the message today, and I think I can get through it with a little help from my water bottle here. So we're continuing along on our life management series, and we want to today talk about managing change. This was not originally what I had planned for today, but when I thought about everything that's happening today, we're getting ready for Promotion Sunday next week. Actually, the next couple of weeks we'll be doing some promoting of the kids, coming up to different things. And we thought we'd talk about some of the things that are changing all the time, including what's going on in the church. So let me ask you this. Who really just loves change in their life? One, two, spare change? Okay, yeah. Somebody said the only people who really like change are the change agents. And so I'm not sure if that's totally true, but I think it does represent kind of a general viewpoint. And I think it's time we ask ourselves, just kind of look inside, why do we hate change so much? I think some of the reason is we just get comfortable with the way things are, and we like things to stay the same, right? Sometimes we're creatures of habit, and it disrupts our patterns. I think it's easy to get self-involved, and change requires more energy sometimes. And so it disrupts our life at some point, and we're like, but I want to talk about three different things. We got three different slides coming up here. The first one is a quote from Robin Sharma, who's one of these help you be successful gurus that gets paid big bucks all over the world and that kind of thing. And he says, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And I thought, that's a good quote. None of us like change going in because it disrupts us, it makes us put more energy out, it makes us rethink things that we're comfortable in, and yet, if we are willing to go through the process of change, it does become beautiful in the end. It really does. The next one is a picture of a butterfly. A lot of times we think about the cocoon, the caterpillar that turns into the butterfly as it goes into the cocoon. And this change here, we delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit, I got that cut off. I think that says the struggle that we have to go through to get there. And then this next one is one that, if you have plans for your life, it probably looks like the top picture here, top part of the picture here, but reality is more like the bottom picture, right? Here's how I planned my life from the beginning. It's going to be a little bit of an uphill bicycle thing here, but I'll get there and it'll be fine, and all my goals will be met, and everything will be nice and smooth. And then we find out life doesn't work like that, right? Because we need disruptions, we need change, we need something to kind of take us out of status quo, to keep us sharp, to keep us thinking, to keep us reevaluating. Because if we don't have challenges in our life, we begin to feel like, well, I've got it all together, and my philosophy of life is working, and I don't need to improve on it any, I don't need to mature any, I'm just going to kind of go with what I've always thought. But then life happens, and it makes us think, am I really on target with this? Am I really thinking right about this? So when we think of change, we often think about the difficulty of change. But there's also good change. How many of you have been through something just seemed like it was terrible at the time, but what came out of it worked out in a wonderful way that you couldn't have imagined? Can you raise your hand if you can think of a time when it's just like, this is the end of the world, this is terrible, I can't believe, and then God did something with it, He changed your heart, circumstances that you just given up on, something happened and something beautiful came out of it. And I think that's a testimony to the power of God. That God can take some of the worst things that happen because of man's free will, either choices we've made ourselves or other people's choices that have affected us in a negative way, and circumstances that are beyond our control. And God says, you know what? I'm not going to take away the free will. I'm not going to just rescue you out of this right now. I'm going to let you go through it, but I'm going to bring you through it. I'm going to walk with you through it. I'm going to be there with you, and you're going to go deeper with me and learn more about life because you have been through it. That's a more accurate view of how life works. Life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. And so we ought to welcome change. We ought to be the people who say, okay, even if it's out of my comfort zone, I don't like it right now, God is in the middle of this somehow. And He's going to make something good come out of it. And even though I may not feel like I can even tell what that's going to be at some point, I trust Him that it will. The struggle you're facing today is building the strength you will need for tomorrow. So whatever you're going through right now, go ahead and struggle through it. Go ahead and grapple with the concepts. Go ahead and wrestle with the ideas. Go ahead and keep yourself going when you've lost motivation because the circumstances seem too dark, too dim. And watch God work when you get to the other side. And what you'll find is He was working with you all along. There are times in my life I can just sense the presence of God. I just feel like, God, I just sense you all around me, inside of me, leading me, guiding me. Get the warm fuzzies. Sometimes I'll just pray and just a feeling of peace will come right here in my sternum, and I'll just be like, God, I just feel like that's your Spirit living in me. There are other times when I don't feel the presence of God at all. And I'll just be like, God, if I'm going by emotions here, I don't feel like you're with me. I'm not getting those warm fuzzies that I get sometimes when I pray or when I study the Bible. I'm not getting that depth of insight that I used to get when I'm digging deep in your Word. I don't know what's going on here. It just seems like everything's flat. And where did you go? But you know what? My faith is the basis for my actions, not my feelings. And I think it might be entirely possible that God doesn't give us those mountaintop high experiences spiritually with Him consistently, so that we won't get dependent on the emotion of God being there with us, and we will rely truly on faith that says, God, you are really, really with me. Let's look at this next one now, because there are some good pieces of advice in this one. It says, for your mental growth, read, study, and discuss. For your spiritual growth, pray, seek, serve, love. For your physical growth, diet, exercise, rest. For your emotional growth, listen, reflect, accept, change. For your financial growth, save, invest, multiply. In all things, exercise discipline, embrace humility, and always give thanks. Always give thanks. Wow. When I saw that, I was like, I got to share that. I got to share that today. So what does the Bible say about change that might give us hope? Does the Bible speak about change at all? Absolutely it does. And I think when we look at some of these verses we're about to look at, what we'll find is it's going to strengthen our faith when we go through changing times. First of all, not all change is bad. A lot of change is good. There's really no downside to it. There's something new going on in your life. God put it there. A new person comes into your life, a new friendship, and it turns out to be something I didn't even know I was missing this. This is great. So let's go first to Hebrews chapter 3, verse 8. And rest assured in this, two things don't change. Number one, the only thing that remains constant is change. And number two, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. When it comes to the nature of God, when it comes to His character, His holiness, who He is in His essence, He does not change. I used to subscribe to the philosophy, and now it kind of bothers me when I hear people say this. And they'll say, especially people who are new to reading the Bible, being like, wow, I read the Old Testament. It seems like God's kind of this vindictive, mean, can't wait to punish you guy. And then in the New Testament, there's a whole lot of grace there. And, did God somehow become a Christian between Malachi and Matthew? What happened there, No, it's not. He's been the same God the whole time. He's led us through these progressive revelations of communing with Adam and Eve, and then passing down his presence through people, and then the law of Moses, and then the coming of Jesus Christ, and then the covenant of grace, the new covenant, all the way through to when Jesus returns, right on through to eternity. God is the same. Jesus Christ does not change. He didn't change personalities. He didn't change his character. He didn't change his holiness. He didn't change any of that. But he's revealing different parts of himself to us throughout the Bible. And if we only see one part of God, have you guys ever gone to the fair where the artist does the caricatures, right? And a lot of times I think we view God as a caricature. We'll find out one thing that we really notice about God, and it might be his anger, it might be his love, it might be his grace, it might be that he's a jealous God, it might be that he's holy, or any of those things. And we make that one feature really, really big, and all his other features really, really small. I think that's a mistake. That's a mistake. We see different pieces of God throughout the Bible, and we know him through all of that. We get to know him, and we love him through all of that. And when we put it all together, we begin to see the bigger picture of just how much there is to God. And in this world, I don't think we'll ever see all of that. But whatever we're going to get through learning the Bible and through developing a relationship with him. So take comfort in the fact that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His character does not change. He's just as much God now as he was before the creation of the world, before his name was ever spoken on planet Earth. And he'll still be the same Jesus when he reigns in heaven throughout all eternity, and we get to see him face to face and worship him. It will still be the same Jesus. I love it. But you know what? Change is necessary for us. Let's look at another passage here. Matthew chapter 18, verse 3. And he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Did you know that change is essential for conversion? Change is essential for becoming a Christian. God is wanting to change our hearts, but before he's going to do that, we have to make up our minds that we're willing to let him change us. That we're willing to see things his way, to do what the Bible calls, repent. And so for us, especially in our faith, I think is what he's talking about here. He's saying, these little children, they get it. They throw their hands up to mom or dad with complete trust, and they don't worry that mom or dad's going to drop them. By the way, I have to brag on myself just a little bit. When my kids were little, I did the dad thing where you throw them up in the air and catch them, that kind of thing. And it always made Noelle a little nervous. I don't know why, because I'm perfectly capable of catching my own kids. But I never dropped one once. Never dropped one once. So you guys have no excuse, okay? And I do have a family member who shall remain unnamed, an extended family member, not in the household of 5 where we live, but who was throwing their baby up and forgot that the ceiling fan was on right up over them. And it was a little bit of a disaster there, but I'm not going to mention any names. So I hold the family record for most catches of a baby, successful catches of a baby, and I just have to tell you that. But why is it that my kids felt like they could let me throw them up? And it was a fun, exciting, exhilarating experience for them because they trusted me. And as they got a little older, maybe about 2 or 3, I would set them on the countertop, and I would get about, a step back, and I would say, "Jump to daddy." And they would jump. Am I making you nervous, Sarah? Okay. And they would jump. I'll just go ahead and tell you, just to relieve your nervousness, that 1,000%, 100% record on that one too. And then I would take 2 steps back, and I would kind of test and see what the limits were to see how far are they going to trust me. 2 steps back, 3 steps back, 4 steps back, and I would read the look on their face and be like, I don't know about this. I just don't know. And I think it's a fun little exercise. Obviously, dads love it more than moms. I get that. But I will say this. There's a parallel there spiritually. I think God is wanting us to stretch and grow and change. And he's saying, okay, you trusted me 1 step out. Now I'm going to take another step out. Will you trust me to jump to me from there? Will you trust me? How about if I go 3 steps back? Will you trust me there? I want to have the kind of faith that would trust God in any circumstance, no matter what's going on, and say, God, I know you've got me. And I know whatever happens, you're with me, you're for me, you're in me. And we're going to be together forever. So for us, our faith needs to come to a place where we say, God, I trust you. Faith and trust are really interchangeable words. They're synonyms, right? And so if we have faith in Jesus, that automatically means we trust him. No, we don't just believe in him, we believe him. We take him at his word. How about another? This is going to be a good change, all right? 1 Corinthians 15, chapter 51. Paul's talking to the Corinthians here. He says, listen, let's go to that next slide there. Listen, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a flash. In the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. You see, our ultimate change, our biggest change is yet to come. This very same chapter here, 1 Corinthians 15, talks about us changing our entire bodies. That we'll go from a physical body to a spiritual body. Now, I don't know what that looks like. Does that mean a physical body in a spiritual place? Or does that mean a spiritual body that you can just kind of pass your hand through? I don't know what that means, okay? But I know this. It's going to be perfect. Which for me is going to be an upgrade. Okay? How many of you feel like when you get the perfect body, it's going to be an upgrade for you? All right? Yes, can't wait for that one. I don't know what I'm going to look like in heaven, but it's going to be better than this. All right? I promise you. So, he's telling us this mystery. Jesus is going to come, and there's going to be this change. And according to this passage, we're going to be raised imperishable. This trumpet's going to sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. Sometimes when I think of grace, I think about a lot of different things, but one of the ways I think about grace is this. God, I know I am trying, and you just supplement everything I can't do, right? My best is still not good enough for a perfect, holy God like that. But what I want to do is I want to get as far down the road as I can on changing to be like Jesus, on letting the Holy Spirit work in me, on letting these things that I read in the Bible come into me and me become what God wants me to be. So that on that last day when he's talking about this in 1 Corinthians 15, it would be less of a change than it would be otherwise. Okay? How much of a change is there going to be when this last thing happens here? When we become raised imperishable and this change happens. I want to be as much like Jesus as I can in this life so the change is not nearly as drastic as it would be. And Jesus tells us that when a student is fully trained, he'll be like his teacher. Does that mean I'll be perfect, I'll be Jesus? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means I will be like him in the ways that he wants me to. So let's do an experiment here. And I got to really keep an eye on my time because I'm trying to time a few things out just right for the end of our service as we're talking about these changes. And so let's talk about the change that has happened just in 2018 in our church. I don't know if you realize this or not, but people in this church have helped lead about 6 people to the point of baptism. Did you know that? You weren't here for this one because I got called in from some friends that I had done some street team ministry with. They found a lady they had studied with. Her name was Olivia, and they said, can you come over and pray for this lady? She's at this turning point in her spiritual life, and we need you to pray for her and share the gospel with her, and she thinks she's ready to be baptized. And so this next one we're saying is Olivia. We couldn't find a place. We couldn't get our baptistry down. We couldn't get a truck to get it down, and she was down in the Aurora area, and we couldn't find any churches that were open on a Saturday that would let us use their baptistry. So we were like, let's just go to where there's some water. And we were trying to rack our brains and think about going to a lake or something like that. And finally somebody said, I've got a bathtub big enough. Let's just baptize her in the bathtub. And so this is your sister, Olivia, who was baptized a few months ago and on a Saturday. And she doesn't speak English and I don't speak Spanish. So the lady you see whose head is kind of right there, you can't see it very well because of the black on Olivia's clothes. That's Maria. And Maria had been studying with this lady and sharing Jesus with her and inviting her over to her house every week. And they were having a small group and praying together, and all kinds of growth was happening. And then on our next slide, we'll see Maria here on the left because her husband, the very next day, Steve Kozad, was baptized here in our service. And I don't know if you guys remember that or not. March or April, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly when. And so here's two people that have never gone to church with us and aren't planning to go to church with us, but we had an opportunity to reach out and have a significant role in their conversions and their experience with God, and it was great. All right? And then we've had kind of a hand in some other folks getting closer to God and making decisions like this. So let's go to our next screen, and let's just look. These are the 6 people that have been baptized in this church since, and the third one was Kathy. She was in Iowa when it happened. And so I don't have a picture I can put up of her, but her daughter and son-in-law, who were here with us last week, baptized her in their bathtub. And they had a garden tub. It was really nice. It was like luxury compared to what Olivia had. It was great. And then you guys remember just a couple of months ago, Gary Hyder and Kim Robinson and Zach Robinson were all baptized right up here in the cafeteria, and just a great chance of rejoicing. And so we've seen some people who have just really had their lives changed. And then we've had other families come our way that were maybe already beyond the point of conversion or baptism or newness in Christ, but have said, hey, we're here, we want to make this our church home, we want to come and kind of throw our lot with you guys, and we're going to call Living Faith our church home. And so one of them is the Sargents, Todd and Kelly, and then Emily, who's back in class. So Todd's helped out in so many ways. He's been up here on the worship team some. Now he's leading prayers for communion. They're coming to a life group, and Kelly's been up here greeting and doing different things. And when Emily saw Steve Kozad baptized, she's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting baptized too. So Emily's been thinking about this for a while too, and already is studying, and maybe she'll make that decision sometime soon. And then the Yesoluskis, who are not here today, they're out of town, but Michael and Nikki and Virginia, I call her Jenny, I think some people call her Virginia, because, that's her name. And so, Nikki's helping out with projector some. She is helping out with some computer stuff behind the scenes. She's available. She's off work every other Friday. She goes with me to deliver welcome baskets to new families in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. And then we have the Hansons, who are not here for a very good reason today, and that is their training for world championships for jiu-jitsu. So Diana, whose husband is best friends with Brian Snavely, they got invited, they came, they liked it, they kind of been out of church for a little while, and AJ loved the youth group, and Diana said that's kind of what our next step is to get back in church and get AJ connected with the youth group, and we want him to thrive. And he's agreed to sit down and study the Bible and to get to know God better. But they'll leave next week to go to Argentina for the World Finals for Jiu-Jitsu. And they'll be back here after they're traveling and whatever training and whatever else they got to do the second week in August. And it's interesting because they live way down in Aurora. When they first started coming, they were coming once a month, all right? And they would just try to pick whichever Sunday the youth group had something on. They would come up so AJ could do that. And then after a while, we started doing the class more than once a month, and they tried to get AJ up here as much as they could. She told me that as soon as they get back from finals in Argentina, they're going to do their best, although it's a stretch from Aurora, to try to be here as many Sundays as they can. So I'm really excited about that. We'll be seeing their faces a lot more. And then just this past week, I got together with Albert Aguero, and Albert went through our new member notebook, and he said, I'm in. I want this to be my church home. And he's already got ways he's thinking about serving. He's wanting to teach Spanish to English-speaking kids around middle school age to help them understand conversational Spanish. And being from Puerto Rico, I think he's probably an expert in it. I think he can do that. So that's good. So we have all of these things that are changing. But you walk in on a Sunday to Sunday and you think, oh, it's kind of the same people here. It's kind of, it just seems like it's the same people. You don't realize how much has changed in 7 months. How much has changed. And then, all of the changes aren't people coming in. Sometimes people end up leaving us, and we're gonna honor Steve and Jenny Vrooman here in just a little while. I asked them to come in at about 11, so they'll be coming in here in a minute or two. These guys have been fantastic. They were here from the beginning, back before we had our official launch, back before we were meeting at Discovery on Sunday nights, back when it was just in my living room, kind of our pre-launch stage. And, Steve and I had known each other through the years, and we had, liked each other and been friends and respected each other's spiritual commitment to the Lord. And we lived in about 4 of the same cities, but not at the same time. So we know a lot of the same people in different cities and been to church with them, but it wasn't until we moved back to North Denver 4 years ago that we're like, hey, we're in the same town finally. This is great, and I'm planning a church. Would you guys like to help us and join in with that? And Steve said, you know what? We're kind of miserable at the church we're at now, and we got this house church that meets sometime. I'm just going to bring my house church over, because we do that for fellowship. That's where we get our real spiritual nourishment, but we're not really getting a lot out of the other church we're going to. And he said, I'm just bring my whole life group over here, my whole house church, and pitch your vision and tell them what you want to do. And if they say they want to do it, they want to do it. That's how we got Judy. And she's been with us from the beginning. And so you just see these kind of chain reactions that happen. You just find out, and in different ways people find us. I think Kathy maybe saw a sign. Somebody found us. Yes, Leslie's found us on the internet. Different people were invited by members. And so these little signs we put out all the time, they're getting recognition. A lot of times people won't recognize the church when we give them a welcome basket, until we say, we meet at Black Rock, and they're like, oh, yeah, I see your signs out on Sunday. I've often thought about coming to that church. And I'm like, something's working. This is great. All right, so what we're going to do here in just a moment, if somebody could go ahead and get Jenny and tell her to bring the kids in. Jenny's taught class for the last 2 months for the children, and she has taught them the timeline of the Bible. And they have little hand motions that go with it. So we're going to have her bring the kids in for the class she's been teaching, and they're going to come up and give a little presentation for that. And after that, we're going to have the kids sit back down. We're going to bring the Vrooman family up, and we're just going to really honor them and tell them how much we love them. Jenny works in Longmont. Steve's office just got moved up to Longmont. The kids go to school in Longmont. They've been checking out a church up there, and so they're going to make that transition. This will be their last Sunday here. So be sure and give them a hug, and be sure and tell them how much you appreciate them, because these are some of the best hearts for God you'll ever meet. And Steve and I have gotten together every Friday for the last, 3-4 years. And we pray together. We pray through the whole list of everybody in the church every Friday morning out loud. We pray for every visitor that's visited within the last 40 days at our church. I keep a kind of a running 40-day list. And we pray for them by name. Steve's kind of been, I'm bragging on him. I'm hoping he'll show up in here and hear some of the bragging on him I'm doing. But yeah, why don't we stop there, and I'll wait till he gets in here for the rest. And Jenny, I think we're ready for the kids to come on down if you guys are ready. So Jenny's not only a teacher by profession, she's been teaching the Bible and been teaching people about the Lord for years and years and years. And we're really excited that she's got this presentation together for us. How long do you need, Jenny? Are you ready? Okay. Are you going to need a microphone for this?
Bible on a timeline, because a lot of people get confused story in Egypt. That I think is explanatory. Kingdom, divided kingdom, and sea. The one that would probably explain is church starts. That's when the tongues of fire over them, and then the church was growing and spreading. And so I think the rest are self-explanatory. All right, thank you guys.
Okay, Jenny, why don't you stay up here and let's bring Steve and the kids up too. And we just want to show you some love on your way out. I found a passage back in Deuteronomy, I think it's 24:6, I'm not sure. It says, you will be blessed in your coming in and you'll be blessed in your going out. And I think that's fitting today. You guys come on over here so we can get you on the camera too. Oh, yeah, all right, we'll come over on this side. And hopefully make sure we're still in the shot. Okay. So, this family has just been a pillar of the church from the very beginning. We love this family. Our family's so close with this family that we blended our names. We call ourselves the Broomricks. The kids came up with that, and we've done all kinds of neat things together, from camping to vacations to all this. But their life is looking more and more northward now. Jenny's been teaching in Longmont for a while. The kids go to school up in Longmont. Steve's office just moved from, was it Louisville or Lafayette? Louisville up to Longmont. And they may actually be going that way sometime in the not too distant future. But for right now, their relationships are shifting northward, and they just prayed about this. They fasted about it. And I have to say this, I have to brag on you guys in several ways. You know, it's always hard when, you know, a family leaves the church. It's never an easy thing. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. The wrong way is just to slip out the back and say a few bad things about everybody on your way out, and, you know, not tell anybody in leadership until you're gone, and, you know, that kind of thing. But these guys have really worked the process of the healthiest way they can do it. When we were doing our 21-day fast at the beginning of the year, this was one of the things they were fasting about. God, do you want us to stay here? Do you want us to be up in Longmont? We know some good Christians up there, a good church that's just very, very sound and very loving. And so it's not been an easy decision for them. And they've assured me no loss of love for this church family. But God does move us. And even Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, and he said, you know, those who belong to the Spirit, it's like that. The wind blows you this way and that way, and sometimes you don't know where you're going next. And yet, those who have the Spirit of God can sense those things. And I believe these guys do. So I want to say just a little something nice about each one of the family members here. And I could go on and on and on. I won't, okay? Because, you know, I'm a preacher and I could, but I also have a voice issue today. But I tell you what, Brianna and Bethany, we just love you guys. You're just always at the hip together, and you're talented in so many ways. You know, Brianna get the kind of music thing going, and Bethany kind of the athletic thing going, and you guys are just sweet. I don't think I've ever heard a bad tone. Or I don't live with them, okay? But I never heard a bad tone coming out of their mouth. They're so respectful. They just love so much. And to see two sisters that are not only close in age, but just like hanging out together, that's amazing. That's great. And I think that shows the love of God in your heart. And then Daniel, a really athletic one who loves knives and swords and all this kind of stuff, he's helped out in so many ways. He's one of our ushers that always makes sure that we have communion and offering plates passing around, that kind of thing. He kind of had one of the lead roles in the Christmas play that we had. This time wasn't a play, it was more of a video, but he was Joseph, and that video got more hits than any other video on our YouTube channel. It was great, and we appreciate all the youth activities and the help that you've given. Savannah, from the very beginning, I called her the spark plug of our youth ministry. She's the vivacious one. She's the one that's always excited and happy and brings people in, and she loves life to the full. You know, she's just always out there doing that. Jenny, so good at hospitality. You've had so many people in your home. I wish I knew how many pounds of food have been eaten at your house throughout your whole life because you've cooked for people that have, you're just like, and it doesn't matter if it's last minute, it doesn't matter if we're expecting 5 and 15 show up, somehow she just makes it happen, you know, and it's always good. And they both have the gift of hospitality, and Jenny has this gift of teaching. She loves working with the kids. She's been involved in women's events and hosting things, and the list just goes on and on and on. And this family has served as missionaries in different places around the world, Kazakhstan and Siberia, different places. Just a true family of God. I'm going to try to do this without tearing up. So far, so good. But Steve, you know, we've just been such close friends, and I enjoy our Friday mornings together. For the last 3 or 4 years, we've gotten together, we pray, we talk about who needs encouragement in the church, who can we help out, and he thinks about everybody, and he's just aware. He's got his finger on the pulse of, I think this person might need something. Let's get a paintball game together. Let's have a men's activity. Let's do this. Let's plan this. And he just wants to make sure everybody feels a part of the church. And so, you know, the Bible study, I mean, Savannah was baptized here at this church. She was our first Baptist. She was the first person that was baptized here at this church about 3 years ago. And it was just so much joy to my heart to watch Steve baptize her. So we know you guys are still living in Erie, at least for the time being. So we know you're a phone call away. We know the love that's here. But I want to give you guys a chance to say, you know, anything you want to say to the church. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I know not everybody's comfortable with the mic, but I know Steve is, so I'm going to let him go first.
How many hours do I get to thank and tell everybody how much I love them? Thank you, first of all, for loving us. And we do love you. And I know you will keep inviting us to everything, correct? Thank you. I knew that's a given. I just want to say, I know that I see so many loving servants out there. They're our friends, our brothers, our sisters, and you're already serving in the places we were helping in small ways. I see all of you raising up and God bringing in other people to help fill in those gaps. I see great foundation here that God has built of other people that are servant leaders, that are going to keep loving people and sharing the gospel and training up people to be stronger followers of Jesus. Thank you for loving us, praying for us, serving us, and we're just so thankful for you. And I look forward to hearing from Barry. We'll still get together because he's one of my closest friends on this planet. And we keep praying for you and praying for each other. And I just think that God has called us to be ministering in the Longmont area, possibly moving up there in the next year or two. But we're so thankful and so blessed to be here this last 4 years. And who would have known, Barry, 4 years ago, we were just showing we're in your living room or you're in our living room, and I think it was just Cindy Gorel and us.
Yeah, that was it.
And see how God has grown this community of believers. So praises to God. We love you. Any other comments, family?
I've been conflicted all summer. I do love you guys. You're like my family. And so that's why we didn't want to just slip out the back door. We wanted to do this right so our relationships remain intact. I still want to be involved in your life. I still want to go to the ladies' retreat. I still want to come back and visit whenever we can, you know, like just slip up on you and not be awkward. And so that's why we were trying to do this in a way that's not, we wanted to do it as appropriate as possible, but I think all the same, even though we're part of the same kingdom, it's still, I'm so sorry for the pain that we're causing. But God's still going to do great things for this church. We still believe in this church. We still believe in the mission here. And we're still behind you guys for that. We do feel like for our family, we do need to think about what is best for the kids also up there in Longmont. And so I just know that this has nothing to do with you guys. So we do love you and appreciate you, and we value our friendships. And I'm excited for the eternity. We can never say goodbye to anybody. But in this case, we're not living far, far away. And so, you know, I don't know when it's going to happen, but please know that we love you so much.
Any kids brave enough to say anything over a microphone in front of family?
the other things Jenny is famous for is if she has any heads up, even like less than a day's notice that someone's getting baptized, she always bakes a cake for them. We have a little celebration because she bakes these amazing cakes. I was going to bake a cake for you guys, but I thought it'd be better if I bought one because you don't want to eat my cake. And so as soon as we're dismissed, we'll have our final song here in just a moment. As soon as we're dismissed, we're going to walk out. Depending on the weather, you'll either be right outside the lobby on the outside, or if we need to, we'll bring it in the lobby. Technically, we're not supposed to have food. Oh, it's in here. I guess we're going to
We
eat
can
it.
move it out, Larry.
Just follow your nose. You'll end up by the cake, that kind of thing. And speaking of changes, I mentioned all the new people that have come into the church, but I didn't know that our newest person was going to be here today, being held by Renju. We almost didn't get church started on time because everybody was oohing and eyeing over the baby. It's his first day here with us, so we're blessed for that. So thank you, Vrumans. We love you guys. God bless you. And we're going to have the worship team come on up here, and we're going to sing our final song. And as soon as we're dismissed, just find out where the cake is, and we'll celebrate. If we do it inside, please try not to make a mess. All right, thank you.